right, good evening. I'll call the meeting to order. I think, one, I'll just note that we have a very busy meeting, 19 items on the agenda. So I'll try to move us through quickly. If I move too quickly, just let me know.
If you end this on time or before, you get a cupcake.
Okay, excellent. And so I'd just like to start the meeting off to acknowledge that we did hire a new police chief, and I want to especially acknowledge the hiring committee that we had. They worked very hard. They did a really good job with Renee really helping head this process. So it was a hard process, difficult, a lot of steps, by everybody's account, the process went very well. And that's including feedback from some of the folks who didn't get the job. But they gave feedback that, they thought the process was fair and done very well. So thank you to the entire committee. Okay, additions, deletions, or changes? I don't think so. We're good with our agenda.
You voted us against that.
Yeah. And this is an opportunity for public comment. If there's anybody here that wants to talk about something other than what's on the agenda? No? All right. So first item on the agenda, number 3, is a presentation on the automated external defibrillators, AEDs, that we are getting. And this is Katie Charbonneau. Do you want to come up and maybe give us exactly, how we got here and what's happening? This is a great story.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yes.
You guys will both want seats? They can get on that chair. You want to sit with it?
Yeah, no.
Okay.
So maybe, Katie, just introduce yourself.
So I am Katie Charbonneau. I am fire chief's daughter. My husband Lucas is a captain. On Halloween, I went into cardiac arrest in my sleep, and Lucas started CPR on me. And our amazing Hinesburg, they call them the Hinesburg 19 now, is what the term has been called for my crew that came to the house. 40 minutes of CPR, 8 shocks by an AED. I never really thought about where our AEDs are because I have the comfort of knowing that they're on all the fire trucks and the police cruisers. Mm-hmm. But you don't think about, well, what if it happened while somebody was here in a meeting? You have to wait for somebody to get here with it. A lot of other towns have them placed all over town. And we started doing a little bit of research, and there are hardly any public AEDs around. A lot of them are, just on the fire trucks and the schools. But I thought that it was extra important to have one here, not only because of the people that are in and out of the building during the day, but with sports going on down back. So we did Katie's CPR day, and between that and the certification, we taught, I think it was 131 people to do CPR that didn't know how to do CPR before. People were giving donations for that, and I put out that I was looking to get donations to raise money for AEDs for in town. My first one was for here, and when we leave here, we're going to the library to present one for the library that we earned money for too. So,
That's awesome.
yeah.
That's fantastic. And, I will say, we have one at work, and we've been trained to use it, and it kind of tells you what to
Yep.
do. They really are an amazing machine.
Yep.
And
And it won't do it unless it needs to. So.
Right, right.
6% of people that go into cardiac arrest survive. Only 6%. So the first line of care is obviously CPR and then an AED. Without those two things, then there's a much less chance of survival even than the 6%.
Okay. Well, this is great. Appreciate you doing this. This is fantastic.
Thank you so much. I mean, this is something that we've actually, our safety committee has been talking about. We
That's
really
right.
wanted to get for town hall.
Yeah,
so
I think it's great that
this
you
is
So where will it be mounted?
I think we were talking about upstairs, right in
Okay.
the hallway, right?
Near the main hall.
Yeah.
Yep.
So am I understanding correctly that you raised this money on
Yep.
the Katie CPR Day?
Yep. We sold the T-shirts like Lucas has on, and the money that we used from the T-shirts was for this. And between the two of them, I also had basically put out a call to people in town on Front Porch Forum saying that I was taking donations and to please send money into the fire department if you wanted to donate, and we did get donations from there as well. So.
Well,
Can I ask?
Thank you very
Yes.
much for doing this for the town.
What does one unit cost?
900.
900.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's just the unit, and then you have the
Okay.
cabinet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. This is just a great story. Thank you, and Lucas. Good job.
Yeah.
So-
Thank you very much.
Yes. Thank you so much.
All right. Okay.
Wonderful.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Now, our understanding is tomorrow you're doing fire extinguishers.
We are.
And you're meeting, and that he's gonna go over
He's
that
gonna
with you.
go over the AED training, so our safety committee,
We'll get training.
yeah, so we have the fire extinguisher training, and then we're gonna also do the.
Can we do a picture here? of
What's
you
that?
guys?
Yeah.
Thank you.
I know Diane was taking a picture.
There you go.
Happy
All right.
You wanna go stand with mom?
You wanna come up?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Your choice.
You wanna come? Come on.
Go with that.
Go with that.
Yeah.
You wanna come too?
All right. Do you wanna hold this?
You're taller than me now.
Over here. You hold that.
Perfect. All right, everybody look right here. All right, big smile. We'll take a couple. There you go. Great, thank you.
Will you send that to us?
Thank you.
Yeah, definitely.
On the light. Yep. There you go.
Thanks again for your time,
Thank
guys.
you. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Will everyone, please make sure you sign your names for the,
Yeah, there you go.
thank you.
I knew that had a good story with it too, so. The next item on the agenda is to consider forming an ambulance committee. This started, several months ago, when St. Mike's announced that they are going to stop serving Hinesburg after 50 years. I know our fire chief and his team have, sort of looked at some options. One option could be our own ambulance. We've got some potential donations already. But we decided we would put together a committee to explore all of our options. And then have the committee come back to the select board with recommendations. There might be a short-term recommendation, there could be a long-term recommendation. We put the word out for citizens who might want to work on this committee. And I think we poked a few folks too to see, who might be willing to. We have 6 folks who have said they were interested: Andrew Dennison, Don Francis, Dee Barbic, Kathleen Furr, Paul Lamberson, Roger Giro, and then Al has mentioned himself and David Etste. So that would be 8 people. And I don't know if we need a motion to form the committee. But the committee, and then at least one select board member. And so Mary Lee was interested.
And Aaron.
Do you both want to?
Whether formally or informally, I'm involved,
Okay.
yes.
Okay. So my suggestion would be, I guess we could make a motion to form the committee. The committee would be an open committee, so they would, get together the first time, decide on a chair to run the meeting, and then probably have a secretary who would keep some minutes, so we'd have some minutes to the meeting. And then I'm sure Al has a lot of information to share with, what we've already gathered, and, go from there. Does that sound
Yeah.
reasonable?
Yep. Can I make that motion then, to form the committee for exploring the ambulance options for Hinesburg?
Okay,
So moved.
and seconded? Yeah, so seconded?
Second. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
You know, it's a good amount of people, so it's, 9 people now. It may be that, I know that Dawn Francis had said she wants to be on the committee, would like to be, but she also had some other options she could support the committee, so maybe everybody gets together in the beginning, decides what roles, you want to play, and hopefully it's successful. And whatever help the select board can give the committee, we're more than willing to do that. All right, so we have the motion and seconded. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. So we'll move forward with that. Thank you for those that volunteered.
Absolutely.
Anything else?
I think that's it.
We'll need someone, whether it's Al or maybe a select board member, to bring everybody together and get that first timing.
Yeah.
I could do that.
Yeah, okay, that would be good.
Bill? So you said 9, are we not officially including Aaron in this? For his name,
Well, it would
it's
be
10.
10, it would be 10 with Aaron,
Okay.
yeah.
Just want to make sure.
Anything else, Al?
Let him know.
No? All right, that's item 4. Item 5 is the select board, or Renee, I guess both, received a petition concerning the speed limits on Route 116 south of Papa Nick's as you go by Buck Hill. And the concern, I think there's been concern about that area for a while. There were 2 recent accidents there. One could have been very serious. I didn't see what happened on the other one. So, Frank's not here. Was there someone here who wanted to talk to that?
I think this group right here.
Oh, okay.
Have some input and personal experience with it.
John?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know if you were.
Yeah, I didn't know how, how to structure it or.
So maybe you could just tell us, why you put the petition together and your concerns about the speed limit there. And just to put it out there on the open, the select board has discussed that area a couple of different times with the police chief, Frank, and with Renee, and I think with planning and zoning, and there was an official request to change the speed limit. That was 6 months ago, 9 months ago?
They actually made it, was it March or April?
Yeah,
Trying to
we had
remember.
that meeting, I think they were having.
Yeah,
Yes.
and so they did extend the 30-mile-per-hour zone further south, but they didn't change the 40 to 50 transition.
Right. So, so that's been happening. But why don't you, tell us exactly, I guess, your concerns, so we hear those.
I can start, and then we can go to.
Do you want to,
other folks.
come here?
Sure.
Yeah.
That's-
Come on up.
And just introduce yourself, that would be
Sure.
good.
John Ferrara, from town, the Buck Hill area, and I was in one of the accidents. I was the accident, I think, 2 Wednesdays ago, so it's like the 22nd, somewhere around that. And the concern over the years has been, I guess, twofold. Other folks will say, their issues, but there's been multiple times over the years where I think accidents have been avoided because folks are slowing down to make their turn, and sometimes I know I've stopped and noticed, look, somebody has pulled out and is
Right.
passing, other folks. And this time I didn't notice it, and I was slowing down and making my turn and got hit by someone doing that. As accurate as the police report could estimate it, they estimated my speed at 8 miles an hour and the driver at 110.
Really?
That was on the police report. Now, if you had me guess, I would have said maybe 70, 80, but
Yeah, that's the car that ended up on the other side.
on the other side of the
flipped
road
over.
and flipped over.
Right.
Yeah. So there were 2 or 3 cars in a row, and we were going slow. I know I was going a little slower than normal because there was someone near Papa Nick's that I thought was going to maybe jaywalk across the road, and I noticed that, slowed down even more. Again, I think that's folks get impatient. They see the straightaway, they see some cars slow. They aren't necessarily expecting folks to turn, and if they make that move even before you've got your blinker on and they're going to make the move, they're at high speed and heading out to the flats. So in that particular case, you know, I was lucky. If I had turned it to think a little bit more, I probably would have gotten hit and could have been much more serious. But we've had other concerns with you know, a lot of young drivers on the road, a number of, you know, high school kids and who are younger and starting to come up as permit drivers and so on. And some folks, I'm sure, will talk about this situation, but we've also talked about even making the right-hand turn out at times because there's a bit
Somebody's
of a
coming the other way. Yeah, I live on that. Yeah,
yeah.
right.
So there's
I see
that
every day.
ditch there, and if you turn, you're trying to avoid turning right too sharply, you come out in that way, and sometimes you're close to the center line, and if someone is making that same move, trying to pass others, you know, you could be in that situation going in that direction as well. So yeah, so it's been a concern as we've noted and stuff there, and I think Frank happened to arrive home that night as I was off on the side dealing with the accident. I think that spurred, you know, the petition at that point, saying, because I know he was waiting in line and immediately called home thinking it made it one of his own kids, and you know, that was everyone's first thought. Didn't turn out to be, but it was, you know, someone from the road and from the area. So that's all I had to say. But
does anybody have any questions or?
Well, I just remember we took a motion. It was
We did.
a request from V-Trans
Yep.
that the speed get reduced, and that hasn't been done yet.
It has.
It has.
But they didn't do the full request. So they extended the 30 mile per hour zone further south.
But it hasn't been posted yet.
No,
it's still you pass Buck Hill a bit, and then the
it goes from 30 on the corner to 40 almost immediately, and then to 50.
and then you're 50 a little bit past
The
Buck. I think,
30,
just past,
the 30
yeah.
did end right near Friendship Lane previously.
Okay,
Right.
that's okay.
So I think they extended it further
bit
to
there.
the
So
south.
they did move the sign.
I thought they did.
I would have said no because I'm always looking at it.
I think the 40 is gone, and the new 30.
Is there?
Is
there.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've looked for that 40 and I don't see it
Yeah.
anymore.
You know, and I did notice one of the officers at the scene did mention as just a side comment, you know, concerned about where you were mentioning the car ended up flipped over there, and with if the additional housing development moves down right there, that would have been
Yeah.
into one of the buildings
Yeah.
had this happened sometime in the future with
Yeah.
again, that's a bit on the extreme side, but we also know one other extreme accident caused the bicyclist death in
Sure.
that same
Yeah.
area as well. So
You know, I've said this already at these meetings. I live there, and when I go to pull out and take a right, I'm always looking for somebody who wants to pass, because it's happened a couple times where I start to go and I'm like, oh man, somebody's coming trying to pass. Or when I'm going left to go home, heading south, that I'm always looking to make sure, you know, nobody's passing. So it's a very dangerous spot. And so we did, you know, go and ask them to make some changes. They made some changes, but, you know,
there may be something
I
else to
think we can,
recommend, yeah.
you know, now we've got a couple more accidents, maybe we can push it even more.
yeah.
So
So,
that-
I'll let other folks,
Yeah.
you know, comment.
Additionally, aren't there high-profile accident areas that the state identifies, Al's shaking his head, that we can put this particular space on that list?
Yeah, you can request it.
Yeah, and how does one do that? Do you know?
AOT.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had a meeting of 3 years, well, they don't work very fast, I'll say that. Because we met 3 years ago about the 2A 116 intersection in St. George, and they were supposed to make some changes, well, nothing.
Still waiting on
yet.
it.
So, and that actually was the second highest place for accidents in the state
Yeah.
at the time we met, so, which I would have never guessed, but anyways.
It was the second highest in the state.
Sure, yeah, because people will be coming out from the other direction too, so. And it is, you know, just past Norris where Buck Hill is, that's the end of our village. That's the end of our village area, so,
Or the
you know,
start.
there's, or the start.
Yeah.
And so there's no reason why it couldn't be 30. And I think there was maybe something in Front Porch Forum saying, well, why don't we do something there? But, you know, we have no jurisdiction on Route 116, so if we wanted to put a calming bump or put a,
Pothole.
you know, I could, you were just in France, I could see a picture of a statue in the middle of the road like they do there. You know, something like that. Right now, we could not do that, but I think I know myself and maybe the select board, we've had some discussions and we have a report about what it would take for the town to take over Route 116. It's not, you know, it's not uncommon for villages to do that. And I certainly would be open, because that would give us many more options on what we could do. So, with 116.
Yeah, so was this actual intersection talked about as part of that committee?
Yeah, there's a report. I think it was published in the Citizen
Yeah.
a few months ago or some time ago. There was a report done, and it's with CCRPC. You can look it up. It's about 3 years old, 4 years old. And it talked about costs associated with taking over the road, and, you know, some options of where we might take the road over, and what some of the calming and changes that could be made. So, for example, I think at Buck Hill and the Norris one, they actually had something in the middle of the road that you sort of had to slow to go around, to slow things down. So
Entrance to
I would
Danville.
certainly be open to have that discussion.
The entrance to Danville has one.
Yes, right, and that was an example, I think, maybe that was in Front Porch Forum. If you go there, I'm sure that's not the state, I'm guessing, that's not the state, that's Danville took over Route 2 there.
Right. Yeah, because I know the planning commission's talked about calming on the entrance and exits, and it's right there. How do you do that? But I think you're right, it would be what can you do on 116 and what can't you do?
Right, the way to do that, to have more control, would be to take it over. And we would get funds for taking over the state road, which would cover the plowing and stuff. But I think what stopped the select board at that time was, you know, if the CVU light went out, now we own that light. If we own it, so that'd be $100,000 or so. So, but it doesn't mean we shouldn't have that discussion.
One of the things that we might be able to do without, you know, having to wait to own the road is, what about putting up a sign that says Hinesburg Village? Because the village speed limit is 30 miles per hour. If a sign were to be placed on the south side of Buck Hill West, because I always thought that one of the reasons that the Norris Farm unit of housing was, it was to make an entrance to the village. That was one of the thoughts. So signage and where the village begins, on the other end also, where the village begins. That's just one that you could do. There are lots of other things.
Is that in addition to the green signs that are already there, the village steering committee put up some years
Yes,
ago?
because those signs are town signs.
Oh, you're talking
that's-
about road signs?
Yeah,
Like on the actual road, not like,
yes,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
talking about a sign similar to the one when you're entering Hinesburg, small thing. But
Oh,
this
yeah.
one would be a larger sign that says Hinesburg Village,
no.
or the Village of Hinesburg, or something like that.
Isn't there
It's
one at George
different.
Munson's right on
Is
his
there one?
property?
Is there
Yeah.
one?
Right on his
Little-
property, isn't
yeah.
that a wooden sign? there?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I was referring to. I was wondering if you're thinking
I'm sorry.
something more than that.
I never know.
And then there's one on the property across from Riggs Road.
Yeah, that's the problem.
So I
Yeah.
think some oh, sorry.
Short term, is there any way to get a do not pass sign instead of unsafe to pass sign, road sign?
What about?
I mean, we can ask. I think what we'll do is we'll bring the police chief here and say, you know, here's what we'd like to do. Frank was brought into the process before, and he helped carry it through. It ends up going to some committee, some road committee from the state who makes these decisions. But, you know, there's no reason why we can't go back at it and say, here's what we're demanding. And, you know, we might as well get Bill Lippert on board too, and really see if we can't force it, and we'll have the data on the accidents too.
Those blinking signs that point out your speed actually do help me. I mean, it helped me on Pond Road
Yes.
realize that I was not.
I agree. I'm a rule follower, even though people don't believe that. When I see those things, I do slow down, you know, but I don't think we can put one on 116.
Yeah, find a spot.
No, it's a state, because it's a state.
Maybe we could, but I'm gonna guess we can't. I mean, we had a hard time putting trees around the park next to Good Times. That took a couple years.
6 years.
6 years.
So the state doesn't care how fast you're going.
You know, I'll say it. As far as the state's concerned, they're just concerned about how fast they can get people from one end to the other. That's their road, to get people from one end to the other. So as far as the village goes, I don't think they have a lot of, you know, that's not at the top of their list.
Can we put a sign on private property that says, "Welcome to Hinesburg, home of the"?
You could, but private property is about 50 feet off of, they have quite a right of way there.
I think
So-
we can talk about signs till we're blue in the face, but if you're gonna do 110
Yeah.
in that
Yeah.
stretch, you're not concerned about a sign.
Yeah.
I really think we need to put Renee and the chief of police on this to contact V-Trans and say, somebody almost died here,
Yeah.
Right.
very recently. Somebody
this
is
is our-
going
and-
to die here, so let's
Somebody has.
fix
Somebody
the,
has.
well,
That's
somebody
right,
has,
yeah.
right,
Yeah.
right.
And this is our village.
Right.
So, yeah.
I had a similar experience a number of years ago, a good number of years ago, and I was driving a caravan at the time, which didn't have much of a back. And I was coming out of the village, slowed down because I was getting ready to turn onto Buck Hill. And just vaguely in the rearview mirror, I see a huge truck barreling towards me and then ultimately going into the field. And I can't remember whether he tipped over or what. He got out of the car, I pulled over, he apologized, and that was the end of it. But it could have ended in a huge destruction. He had a lot of weight behind him. If my kids had been in the back seat of the car at that particular time, you know, we all could have been toast. And I've also had several experiences where I'm heading out, I'm decelerating because I'm getting ready to go into Buck Hill, and somebody's up right beside me, getting ready to pass and blow through. And I think there's this psychological, maybe it's been habits for years that people are like, out of the village, gun it. And it's going to be more of a problem. I know that when Norris's went in, Alex talked about potential traffic calming possibilities. And I know that they put a walk up. The walk sort of ends with their property, which is unfortunate because there are a lot of people that walk on that.
That sidewalk will continue. We'll go to the school at some
It will continue, but it would
point.
be great if there were some piece of it that were from Buck Hill on, because a lot of people walk down Buck Hill, and then, you know, I know we've walked down the 116 and feel like we're just about blown in the ditch, you know. But anyway,
All right,
there will be many testimonials. I'm
So
sure.
I think one, just, it's not an ultimate solution, I agree with Tom. But one thing that may calm it a little bit is with the Norris project, when those buildings come up, that will help traffic calm a little bit, but to that point, you're doing 110, there's not much. And the other question is where the Norris project is planning to come out, that's gonna be a road, not a driveway, correct?
Where?
That's their entrance. That's
Because
not
I know-
a town road.
I know if, even though you can pass on a double yellow line, if you do it where driveways are, that's illegal. So that's something too, because I learned that the other day. So, yeah, so anyways, it's not an ultimate solution, but I think when those buildings go up near the road like that, it's gonna naturally slow some things down, but it's still not a solution, I agree, so.
And we're adding many more people that are going to be
Yeah.
moving into that
Yeah.
intersection,
Yeah.
so it's gonna compound things in some
Right.
ways.
Frank, was there?
Well,
did you wanna-
sort of a prefatory comment, you know, taking a left out of Norris is toward the village, I think is gonna be particularly dangerous. The sightlines, when you look right from Buck Hill, are great. You can, if you have the wisdom to look right,
Right.
you can see a car passing. If you're pulling out of Norris's to turn left, I don't know that you'll be able to because that view will be obstructed by the car that's being passed. It's a pretty extreme consideration that I was hoping maybe one of the investigations could consider is the four-way intersection at Norris's and Buck Hill West. I think that it does two things. One, if we remember what CVU intersection was like before a light, it's 50 miles an hour coming in, and people would cruise into Ballard's Corner and through. The installation of that traffic light over time has changed motorists' behaviors. They slow down knowing that there's a light there, knowing that there's cars backed up. Similarly, I think that the people that we're most concerned about, sort of the offenders, are the people that are passing through Hinesburg. They're not necessarily residents. They're cooking along to get to Starksboro and to get to Lincoln. If they know that there's an intersection there that's going to cause them to come to a stop, they're not going to leave the village at 110 or at 60 because they know they're just going to instantly have to decelerate and come to a stop. Traffic-wise, I honestly don't think it's going to make a hill of beans difference in the mornings for people coming into the village, because as soon as you get just past your road, Phil, at the peak of the traffic jams between there and Papa Nick's, you're stopped anywhere. Anyway, it may actually improve things by cycling people in a more orderly fashion come to a stop. So
Are you proposing a four-way stop?
it's not a popular consideration, but just
I mean,
a thought to investigate.
You know, that is an option, but it's certainly an option that we'd have to go, either we take over the road or we, you know, petition the state. So I'm sure our police department would be all over this. This is all about community policing. So I think we'll pull them into the conversation and see what our next steps would be.
It's sort of a long-term, long-view thought.
Yeah.
But I do think there have been benefits to CVU, light, slowing persons down.
Yeah, I'm.
I wonder if in the
I'm
short
for it.
term, one of those barrels in the middle of the road might help.
Yeah.
Again,
well,
we can't.
The state.
I
yeah,
understand, but I
Right.
think if we come to the table presenting options,
Right.
it's easier than saying, well, can you
Yeah.
figure something out for us?
I can reach
I mean,
out
You
to
know how
the
that's
same.
gonna go.
You go through other towns like Williston in the center of town where Route 2 goes through there. You see 3 or 4 places where people can cross, you know, safely because they've got signage, they've got the, you know, lights, and a lot of other towns. We have 1 crosswalk, 2. And anywhere else you try to cross, it's nearly impossible, which is wrong. This is a village, a walkable village, and we should be able to cross in several places.
I often cross Giroux. I rarely get a person to let me go.
Yeah,
And
rarely.
I watch the guys that work at Giroux go from their parking lot to go
Yeah.
to work, and it can take them 15 cars
Yeah.
before
People,
somebody will let them
people
go.
are not used to it, but there's no reason why over a period of time, we can't train people that, you know, when they see somebody standing there, they stop and let a pedestrian. But that's a matter of slowing everybody down a little bit and very visually showing this is a village. In the same way, Danville, or if you go to the center of Williston there, they have just as much traffic coming through. But it's a different attitude. Virgins, so.
I can reach out to V-Trans, to some of the same folks that we dealt with for the hearing, and just kind of give them an update of what's happened and what we're interested in
So
discussing.
this is something I'm concerned about. We'll try to move this forward and, you know, give us a couple of months, 2 or 3 months, and then let's see where we go with it.
So what's the timeline on the sidewalk? Because I feel like that would be a good time to address that kind of thing. If they're putting in a sidewalk, that would be.
Would help-
Is it
be
like
helpful.
5 years?
I think it's right now on target for 2020, so next year. That sidewalk project, you never know. It may delay a little further, but
Yeah.
right now, that's where it's targeted.
Yeah. So those things tend to go slower than we wish. I was gonna say 3 years, you know, but maybe we'll beat that.
Did we already talk about when that request to move the 30 mile an hour is going to come through and actually?
It
You
did,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. So
Is
they
that in the near
had,
future?
There was a change already.
Oh, it's
Yeah, they already did, they
So-
already did extend it. So it used to end at Friendship Lane, and it extended further south.
Oh, that's the extension.
Yeah, so where the 40 mile per hour started is now where the 30 extends to, I believe.
So
and then-
it's clear that, you know, we needed to get more than that. Chuck, did you have one?
Two questions. If we were to take over the road, what's that process like? Is that years down the road?
I don't think it would have to be years. I mean, I think that it would be something, you know, and I'm just sort of speculating here. I mean, I think maybe we might go to the town and say, do we want to do this as a town? I think that'd be the best approach, because we would be taking over responsibility and potentially some cost. Initially,
that
it
was my
looks like a
second part.
wash,
Yeah.
but there is some level of responsibility. But with that level of responsibility, you get a lot more options.
So we'd be responsible for all the traffic lights, you know, through town.
What about like
16.
re-blacktopping or something like that? Is that all us too?
That would be us, but they pay us for the mileage that is state road, so we would get some funds for that.
Yeah.
But, you know, realistically, the town trucks, the state trucks would be coming to plow 116. If we own this section of it, you know, let's say from CVU Light or the Commerce Light to Buck Hill, if we own that section, the state would literally lift up their plows, drive through town, and put their plows back down.
I'll do a public record request and find out what villages have taken over. state
That would be
roads.
great. That would be helpful, yes, for us to understand that. We were told, and I forget who told us that if we wanted to do this, the state would be, they would be like, yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
they would be
They're-
very
It's not a fight with them.
willing.
Well, it would be the inverse to ask the towns, do they regret taking over?
Right,
Yes,
absolutely.
right.
Absolutely.
Yes, that would be great data to have. Thank you, Frank. Okay, we have a busy agenda. Is there any other comments? I appreciate you coming, and, you know, I was feeling good, like we had made some progress, that they actually accepted some changes, but clearly it's not enough, and I would say the same thing, so. Thank you. Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you for coming.
I think Evelyn
Sign in.
supposed to. That was the best petition.
Make sure they sign it.
Evelyn.
Evelyn.
Yeah, that was, yeah. Look at that, we're on time here.
Here's Evelyn's.
So now we're into the, okay. Next item on the agenda is a presentation by Ethan and the Forest Committee. And you should come up and take the front seat. And I will say, I think we mentioned it at one of our select board meetings a couple ago. And I'm happy to say it again. What a great event we had here a couple months ago, or the history night about the town forest. It was well attended. We had a nice dinner, potluck, and it was extremely interesting to get the history and have some of the folks here who originally were part of it, and to again honor Russell, Steve Russell. Yeah, so that was really,
I thought
really good
it was
event.
really special. Yeah, and I think, you know, my purpose of coming before you guys is just to give you kind of an update on how the logging's going. We're one winter through this particular area that we're working on, which is off Economo Road. And we anticipate having another full winter of work. We're still under contract with Tim Brown, who's from Hinesburg here, who that contract went before you all. And I think it's going really well. So there's a bunch of different purposes. So one purpose of it is just the management of the forest and increasing the health of the forest in general. Another purpose is the demonstration of forest management. And so that, for me, that's where like the biggest bang for my buck for the work that I'm doing is, because it provides us an opportunity to demonstrate what responsible forest management looks like. And so there's been a number, I wrote down there's been a number of sort of different events that we've done. We had a public forest management plan presentation back in, what was it, I guess 2017, before we adopted the management plan, the forest management plan. I did a public presentation at the library, summer 2018, 2 pre-harvest walks in September and then again in December last year. two walks with the harvest being active. That was one in January, another one in March. We had that town forest history night, which was about honoring the history of the town forest, but then also me kind of slipping in the message of what we were doing up there and how what we're doing now is sort of a continuation of that history. And then we actually just last weekend had a wildlife walk that was very well. Oh, we had a walk as part of Huntington's Arbor Day, and then another wildlife walk last weekend. So the goal of all this, from my perspective, is to do really good work, and then also to demonstrate what that looks like in this really like open, inclusive, transparent way. And so the Hinesburg Town Forest History Night is, for me, was also recognizing that not everybody's going to come out on a walk in the middle of wintertime and walk around not on manicured trails and stuff like that. So giving people another opportunity to kind of be involved. And then similarly with the last walk last weekend, we brought out wildlife biologists with the hope that some people who their ears might not perk up at the thought of a active forest management walk, they might be more interested in the effects of the work that we're doing on wildlife. And so we had 2 wildlife biologists go out and talk about how this work is interacting with wildlife habitat and birds and all this other stuff. So that was really exciting as well. And then the other thing that I'm really excited about too is that this concept of this work being important to achieve certain conditions within the forest, so making our forests healthier, but then also the idea of demonstrating the harvesting of these local renewable resources. And I think that like the local economy part of this has also been really important. So we have a logger from Hinesburg, we have a trucker from Huntington, all the softwood is staying in the county, all the softwood timber. That was these plantations that were planted back in the 40s. All the spruce went to Clifford Lumber right here in town, and all the pine went to Lamell Lumber in Essex. And most of the firewood staying in the county, harvest being processed by Tim or other local guys. And the hardwood logs being sent to a yard in just south of here in Addison County. So I think it's really exciting. I think it's going really well. I'm looking forward to next winter and continuing to sort of loop in all these different opportunities for people to get involved and learn more about it if they want to. And I should say another part of that has been keeping Fellowship of the Wheel in the loop, and trying to, redirecting some of the proceeds from the timber harvest towards them, so that they can do some trail restoration work. They've also applied for a trail restoration grant. There hasn't been really any impacts to their trails so far. Most of the impacts are just in a couple areas like brush on the trail that needs to be cut out, but it hasn't been significant. We'll be interacting with their trails a little bit more next year. But that's obviously recreation is a hugely important part of that forest. So that's something we really care about. But yeah, so that's where we're at right now. And I guess I'd be interested to hear if you guys had any questions for me about it.
So we have this logging going on. It's like a clump of logging.
Yes.
Right? So we got one more year of that.
Yep.
And then it'll be quiet for a little while. And are you already looking at what might next be harvested?
So
and how quickly would that be? I'm just curious.
I mean, so in the forest management plan, so there's a few different areas that were prescribed. So basically there hasn't been, other than there was a bunch of thinning in the early 2000s in those plantations that then blew over, and then there was some salvaging of those plantations. And then in the last 10 years, there hasn't really been anything. So then there was harvesting that was prescribed in that forest management plan to occur from a few different areas. So from first from the Economo Road side, and then from Hayden Hill East, and then a section on the, what do we call it? What's the small lot called?
Hollis.
The Hollis parcel. And then potentially, again, sort of back on the other side of the Economo Road. So it doesn't cover, we have the whole forest is split up into this triad approach, so only about maybe 2/3 of it is even open to harvesting. But there are a few different areas over the next 10 years that would be potentially open to it. There's no town forestry police who are like, you wouldn't get in trouble if you didn't do that work. That was just sort of what was recommended in the forest management plan that was written.
It might take us a little longer than that.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's sort of just the framework. But I think that's something that we are thinking of, or I'm starting to think about, is moving to Hayden Hill East, and that would be a separate contract. So that would be something else. Right. It would go through the bidding process, and it would come before you all. It would be completely separate, and it might be the following winter, or it could be a winter or two go by. And so that would be something that you would sort of have the opportunity to look at again.
All right. Does anybody else have any
Well,
questions?
I will certainly say that I haven't attended any of the walks, but I have seen them well advertised. And so it's very good to hear that people are attending in pretty good numbers, so.
It's all, for me, it's about just trying to change that narrative and understanding how this is, if done well, logging can be just a really important part of how we manage our forests and part of our working landscape that we all support. And also, like, everybody loves all these local renewable resources, but logging, the process of extracting these particular resources has a really bad rap for good reason, I think, for how it's done in other parts of the world and how it's been done in the past. But just sort of shedding light on it and bringing it out into the open and saying, this is how we do it, and this is all the reasons why this is really positive.
Yeah.
So I'm going to continue to really try and do that outreach.
That's been my service.
And we were on across the fence like 2 days ago.
Today.
Today.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So that was really exciting. I always wanted to be on that thing. So.
Yeah.
The attendance at Ethan's walk has been unbelievable.
Yeah, it's been cool. I think we got this last walk last weekend, 30 people.
Wow.
And a lot of these walks, averaged, we had some really adverse conditions. One of the harvest walks, it was, 10 below or something.
Yeah, 10 below, and there were like
12, yeah, it's like all people bundled up. And I think counting the Hinesburg Town Forest History Night, we had 188 people.
We were able
That's
to
great.
give the Trails Committee some money for their
Yeah, I mean, I realize the logging isn't a huge money maker, but it makes a little bit, and we're able to, share it. So that's great,
Yeah.
and keep people employed in the business.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
And thinking about other ways to do stuff like, we're talking about installing some educational signage around the areas that we're harvesting now, so that even when it's not so apparent that there's been work, which will happen really soon, nobody will be able to notice anything happen, they'll still be able to see this is a sign, this is what we were doing, this is when we did it, these were the goals, these are maybe some of the different conditions we were trying to achieve, or the wildlife that we're trying to create habitat for, stuff like that.
Good. Did you?
Yeah, hi, I'm Darren. I'm on the Forest Committee. I guess first of all, I'd like to, on behalf of the Town Forest Committee, thank Ethan for his tireless dedication and the energy he brings to bear. He's an excellent resource, so thanks, Ethan. And just to reiterate some of the points that Ethan made, the harvesting itself, I think, was done, I'm a forester, was done very well and adhered to what are known as best management practices. Very light footprint. They used a local contractor with a skidder and a chainsaw, so very light touch. There was minimal impact on the environment. If you go out and look at the harvest unit, it's just a tremendous job from a forestry perspective. I think importantly as well, it had minimal impact on other forest users, which is something that we always try to balance in managing the town forest. It's a multiple use resource, and some people tend to forget that. I think that we spend a lot of time debating who has the right to do this or that, but I think everyone has a right to use the forest and respect other users. I'm really glad to see and hear that the harvesting this winter really didn't have a negative impact on other users, whether they were hikers or mountain bikers, and I think that's a really positive thing, and it really demonstrates that you can have these activities going on simultaneously without any sort of adverse effects. The other point I think that's important is the harvesting. We intentionally tried to focus and benefit local businesses. So Ethan had mentioned we had a local contractor. Majority, if not all of the wood, was sold to local sawmills, I think within a 50-mile radius. Some of them actually in Hinesburg, like Clifford's. I think that's a very positive thing as well, so you're sort of promoting the local economy. Yeah, and the educational piece. I think Ethan had mentioned 180 plus people have now been involved in some way, shape or form. and sort of forest education, whether it's been through forest walks or coming to town forest committees just to listen. As Ethan said, we're going to put some educational interpretive signs up to actually describe a little bit about what we're doing out there. And that's all good. It's sort of bringing people along in the spirit of transparency. So, harvesting has always been perceived as this sort of negative thing, but it doesn't have to be. And I think you mentioned that it's very important for the health of the forest. And if you read the forest management plan, these harvests are designed to improve the health and resilience of the forest over time. That's exactly what we're doing. So it's a necessary component of good forest management. So.
Well, good. Yeah, thanks for the update. We appreciate it and encourage you to, if you need help from the town or the select board, let us know, because you guys are doing some great work.
Thank you very
question
much.
about it.
Great, I appreciate your help bringing it to.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. And we'll just keep on putting the word out about the educational events that we're doing, and plan on starting up sometime December or around the beginning of next year.
Okay, great.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks,
Very
Ethan.
good work.
All right, next item on the agenda is discussion of the easement language or the contract that BlackRock forwarded to the town. The town passed it by Bill Ellis, our counsel, on this. I think he had a few comments that were incorporated in the language. So we have a finished one, or I'll say a draft, or
Clean
one
copy.
that's sort of ready to go. And I'm assuming people had a chance to look at it, and maybe some of the feedback from our lawyer. And so as part of our typical way we operate is now we have this contract that we could sign, or deed we could sign. And it would be my intention that we now have it, it's out in the public, and for our next meeting to make a motion to move this forward. So it's been cleared, and typically for us, we like to put it out there just in case there's other comments that people have. But it looks good, I think, and I think we're ready to go.
My only question would be then, would the allocation issuance sort of track with this at the next meeting, and we'd wrap it all up then?
Yep, I mean, that would be, if we sign this, then that says, hey, we're taking over the well, and I think when and or if, hopefully it's when, the well, it gets turned on, then based on our contract, you would have the allocation that's clear in the contract, 30% or whatever it is. Yeah.
No, and just in keeping loose track of the progress of the well, and actually given the scope that we've ended up doing for a phase one, I think it's going to take some time for us to work through the process. So
Yeah.
I think we're still a couple of years out probably before we're even thinking about accessing that allocation. So I think we internally feel pretty comfortable that the active allocation we have is good to get us started, and we could last for 2 to 4 years before we needed. So I think that that's probably a reasonable amount of time to anticipate it coming online. So
Yeah, in fact, Eric is here, and do you want to give us a quick update on where the well is? Kind of putting you on the spot, but
No, it's no problem. The state came back and gave us the ability to proceed with our drawdown testing. And at this point, we're just praying for sunshine, because the field is just too wet to get out there with the equipment at this point. So as soon as it dries up enough so that we don't lose the generator, into the mud.
Again.
Yeah, again. We'll get it rolling.
So that'll be one of the major steps, will be the
Right.
drawdown. We've done a little bit of drawdown, which said it looks okay,
Right.
but this will be the official drawdown to make sure we're not
This is
taking
the
it out of
state
everybody else.
mandated, yeah.
This is the big one that checks all the wells in the area.
And then I
This is
think,
the big step for the state giving us the permitted yield.
yeah.
So in terms of getting to that point, I assume, well, must be all of the, the quality testing has already been done?
The water quality is good.
Okay.
The water quality is all there.
All right, great.
Yep.
So, and then we'll be asking Eric and that team to then come up with a timeline of what are the steps to move this thing forward. And which would include some, obviously, cost estimates, so we know exactly how we move forward with that.
The only question I have on the easement is, shouldn't there be like a map, drawing, whatever, that shows?
Yeah, there is a map
There is,
drawing.
okay, just wasn't.
Yeah, it's an attachment to it.
Okay,
so
so I didn't get that.
I can email that over to you.
Excellent. Yeah, just because I want to, being able to control the wellhead protection areas.
Yeah, and we took a pretty straight shot up to the public right of way, where the existing sewer line is.
Shortest path is the best.
Exactly.
So that's out there for anybody to look at, the easement language as modified and reviewed. And Eric, if you would, in the next couple weeks, take a look and make sure you don't have any questions or everything looks good.
The language looks good, I just need to look at the map.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. Any questions or thoughts?
All right.
All right.
Perfect. That was
Thank you.
easy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming.
Enjoyed the evening.
Even ahead of schedule.
Oh.
Hey.
Oh, jeez, I cannot believe. Who invited this guy in here?
Because I promised them cupcakes if they ended on time.
At least don't mention it till I'm done.
Keep it up, we'll use that AED just.
AED test.
Just a little wake me up.
All right, next item on the agenda is to discuss FY20 water and wastewater budget and proposed rates. We'll review it, we'll have questions, Eric's here. I imagine at our next meeting is when hopefully we might be, if everything looks good, to approve it. It's typically, while our normal town budget is voted on in March, we tend to do this one for July 1st.
Right.
The enterprise budget, which are actually two separate, completely separate budgets, right? I'm asking that question.
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah,
And
two
there's a
separate
shared portion,
enterprises.
too.
Enterprise budgets,
Because not everybody who's in the sewer necessarily has water, and some
Right.
people have water and don't have sewer.
Right.
So in our packet
Some have
was a memo, I think from Eric, and the actual budget numbers. So I'm gonna, I don't think I printed it. Oh, I think I did actually.
It's up on the screen. if you-
Okay, so we have the, why don't you give us a little quick update on what you said in the memo and.
Sure. We had, we did have some budget expansion, but with strong use and the forecasting we did last year in setting rates, we can cover that expansion without increasing rates at all this year.
So last year we had a pretty good water.
We did.
Increase
We're
and.
stable on sewer.
And, okay,
Yep.
yeah.
And we can keep them all stable this year and still be in excellent shape.
Are there any specific concerns on the budget? There were a few things, over or under. Is there anything, specific?
Nothing that was out of, wasn't expected. We had some increase in salary due to, they crunched the numbers and increased some of the percentages of town hall staff in, their efforts
So
in
an
our
adjustment,
department.
slight adjustment in
Yep.
time spent toward the enterprise.
With Bart Sherman leaving the military this spring and my forecasted retirement from the military this fall, that brings a higher percentage of health
Benefit,
insurance
health,
cost.
yep.
Because we're both on the military insurance. So, the new permit has much increased laboratory testing. That bumped us some up. That was about it as far as the, but we also had some good decreases. We had an easy year on water breaks. That took a big, and I feel that a good portion, some of that was luck. Some of that, I also believe that a lot of the stuff that was causing us problems, they've all broken. I mean, most of those, most of that 96 group of valves has already been taken care of. So we've got a lot of stuff that's just, we should be in a more, water breaks are going to happen, but I think we're in a more stable period than we were in the past, 4 years.
I have a quick question, Eric, about utilities. Because the actual for 18 was almost 75 grand. And then our budget was much lower last year, and it's still only 55. Do you guys
Right.
have it
So
kind of in the sweet spot now? Or?
Right, 18, if you remember, if you think back, we had the
water
big
was
leak.
running a lot.
Yeah.
The big leak, that's what that was all about.
Okay.
We were running twice as much,
Right.
and
Okay.
the electricity showed it.
Okay,
Yep,
so that's good. Yeah.
right. Yep, and
And you
I,
had said we should see that
right.
go down.
Exactly, and I over adjusted it last time, and I just, sharpened the pencil up this time and made it more, from more from what we're experiencing it. It was a little higher than I forecast.
I think we've talked in the past about adding some isolation valves so that when we do have breaks, we're able to better control it. And I
Right.
think there was some, and I think along with that is we did have from, I'm going to say Ethan, from Tyler, the
Tyler,
report on the system, the water system, which he had a couple of recommendations,
Yep.
long-term recommendations. So none of that's been put in the budget.
Those aren't yet in the budget. We did put in the SCADA change out / upgrade to the wastewater pump station because, the other one we're kind of, duct taping it along. It's beyond its life. I actually scheduled that today for July 9th.
The pump wastewater
pump station,
Yeah,
the main
that's
pump-
the one here,
Right.
the little building.
Yep.
Yep.
Yep, so that's in there. The valves, we're gonna try to push for the next year because, part of what I want to do with that is actually do it within the asset management program and, be able to use our new tools, which actually I started the software today and Tyler is uploading the program onto the software. So that should be.
So we're still
actually-
working, still getting it established.
Right, so, yeah, we had to, he had to get all the bugs out, get it blessed by me, by you, and then by the state. And then the software has a 2-week free trial period, which I actually talked him into making it 2.5 week. And we started that today. And I'm confident that, we're gonna be happy with it and go with it. But, a free trial's a free trial.
Well, Tyler seemed to think it
Oh, yeah.
went pretty well. So you're saying you wouldn't want to do the isolation valves until,
Well, I just want to have the right ones under the program. And we have his quick overview,
okay,
but I want to have use the tools and do the deep dive and say, this is why.
okay, yeah. So, go ahead.
Kind of an oddball question here, but where do we, with the expansion we're going to see in the village at some point, where do we stand with the storage tank on top of the hill? Is it adequate volume? Is there going to need to be an upgrade to that at some
We
point?
may need to look at that. Absolutely. Before we can get there, though, we need to loop a line from the well either up and over to Riggs or straight up
Once
CVE
it's-
Road.
Yeah, that was part of the capital stuff
Right.
that he said, in the future, adding that additional loop.
Right.
Either Mechanicsville or CVU, I think, up
Yep.
that way.
Yeah, because if we have, right now we have one feed line,
Right.
that goes across Black Rock and through Creekside. And if that goes down, we're in deep doo.
So my suggestion, so this budget doesn't talk about any capital improvements.
Other
Necessary.
than the SCADA.
Very minor.
Right.
So, I mean, Tyler is talking to us and saying, these are some things that we should start to consider.
Absolutely.
So, and now we are looking at doing the Black Rock well, which in a couple of weeks we'll stop talking about it as the Black Rock well, and it will be the new Hinesburg
well
well.
6.
Well number 6, okay? So, as we bring that on, we're going to need to raise some funds to hook
Right.
that up.
Right.
So my suggestion would be, maybe with Tyler, to sit down and say, what capital improvements should we do to, are there any that we should do along with the well?
Right.
And then, if we need this
Right.
other loop, because that's really important, or whatever is next, we might as well take a big bite out of the apple and get it
Right.
all
I mean,
done.
the loop should definitely be, done with, and whatever that means, with expansion money, because it's for the,
Yes,
the
right.
new users,
Yeah.
Wasn't there something as part of the Route 116 intersection improvements that at the same time that you guys were looking at possibly doing while they're doing that
Yeah,
work?
there is that.
Is-
And that's in the budget, there is a section of the 4-inch AC that goes into Route 116.
Up to Place Road, that one?
No, it goes across, up CV Road. It goes under 116 from CV Road and stops, 20 feet down Shelburne Falls Road and then turns into 2-inch. That section, because it's gonna be all new road,
Yes.
we're gonna turn into either 8-inch or 12-inch. We're gonna look at the hydraulic model with Tyler. New
Okay.
pipe, sleeved, all that stuff.
So that's in
do
this
it-
budget?
Yeah, and that's gonna be done with the state,
While
So-
they're tearing up the road.
Right, so
we'll do that.
it'll be some reduced cost because they're
Yeah.
gonna have a good part of the excavation done as part of the road.
Yeah. So, so we have the budget here, which we can continue to talk about, but as far as the capital and the well development, I'd be looking for you at some point, fairly quickly, to come with us and say, okay, here are the steps that are gonna take for the well, and here are the cost estimates, and here's some additional capital that we might include in it, and so that we can start to understand what the cost of this is, so then we can start looking at a bond vote. Because that's what it's going to take.
Absolutely.
You'll also see in your packet, I added today, Missy
Capital.
emailed me a spreadsheet with the reserve funds right now that, from all of the allocation fees and the holding fees. And these are the totals for both water and sewer. So the combined grand total, this is,
So that's water and sewer.
The big black thing standing in the way.
I know, just right there.
Yep, 369.
388.
So.
Oh, 80, yeah, 389
Yeah.
basically.
Is that a 50-50 split, or?
No, it's more water than sewer.
So,
It's probably a 60-40-ish, just because the water, the way it's calculated, the gallons per house is higher for water, so you end up
For the
paying-
allocation.
Right, so you end up
So-
paying more for water.
So what we'll need to do, because we've got a couple things coming at us. We got the wastewater system.
Yeah, right.
Now we've got the water expansion system. Both of those are bond votes. So what we'll need to do is, there's several pieces to it, at least in my head. We need to, we're getting close on the wastewater with a decision
Yes.
on where it's going to go and how much it's going to cost. We need the same with the water. So what are the steps? What's it gonna cost? And any capital that goes with that. And then I'll look to Renee to help us look at how much will we recover through additional allocation fees, the way they are now, in future development. So we can sort of say, okay, here's a portion that's gonna come back. So then we can start to look at these costly expansions and how much is going to be provided through new users.
Right.
And how much is going to fall onto the existing users and new users.
And the impact fees.
Yes.
Yep.
Well, I call them, they're either allocation or impact fees. So
Yeah.
in this case, we call them allocation fees.
Yep.
They amount the same.
Yeah.
But same idea.
So we got a little bit of work to
Absolutely.
do. And it may be something, over the summer or in the fall, we break out a smaller committee to sort of help understand this, because this is going to be costly, and we're going to have to explain it, and we're going to have to
Costly.
understand how much it's going to cost.
Costly and complicated.
So can I just ask a couple of clarifying questions? So one, and this may be too soon to ask these kind of questions, but bond vote, what if it fails? What's plan B? Right, because you have to do something.
Yeah. Well, for wastewater, we'd have to come up with a second bond vote.
Repackage it and try again?
Yeah.
And is there any discussion about it not being just on the water users? And being a town vote?
I brought this up, and
Isn't it
we had a discussion about this. There's pluses and minuses to it. I mean, I think I'll let Renee kick me under the table if I say anything wrong, but you could make an argument that these systems not only are good for the people actually hooked up to them, but everybody in town, because they all benefit from a vibrant village that has jobs and stores and commercial and services, and the town and the schools, they're all on this. So you could make that argument, and then the bond vote would, when everybody in the town votes for it, now everybody in the town would pay for it. So there might be an argument it's harder bond vote to pass. Where if everybody in the town votes for it, but only some people are paying for it, then maybe that's an easier bond vote.
Right.
I'm not saying one way is correct and one way
that's
isn't. I think there's a strong argument that everybody in the town benefits from it in some way. Obviously, people on it benefit more.
So are we going to discuss that at a later point as we get to that conversation?
We certainly could,
Even if it's, hey,
Right.
a smaller percentage goes to the non-users, but,
I think you're
what I
gonna
mean?
wanna discuss all the different
Yeah.
options and
I
possibilities.
think we should definitely have that discussion.
There's been.
I think,
So there are places, I don't know if there's any in Vermont, because of the way we do politics and votes, but there are places where the infrastructure of a water and sewer system is a town, town tax expense, where the O&M is a user rate expense. Because, it's town infrastructure, and there's, like, as Phil said, there's benefit to everyone. I mean,
by the town.
but, in Vermont, typically, the out-of-village users have more votes than the in-of-village users, and it just doesn't fly.
Well, we need to keep in mind too that, I'm not an in-village person.
Right.
I have my own expenses.
Oh, absolutely.
To my water and
The argument
sewer.
goes back and forth. It's like, people in the village say, well, I don't need to pay for dirt roads, because I don't use them.
Well,
it's a good discussion.
That's
I
what I
think,
say,
I
to differentiate,
think not only should we have the discussion, which is worth, a good hour of discussion,
Right.
and allow other people to weigh in.
Right.
It also would be good to get some data. I think Wayne, when we had a wastewater meeting, I think he sort of weighed in and said, it doesn't fly very well in Vermont.
Yeah, I've never seen it fly in Vermont.
Yeah.
So, because I just know at least if I've seen the graph, our water rates are high
Yeah,
compared to
they're one
local
of the
towns.
highest. Yeah.
And my concern is you're going to drive the value of the cost in the village to where you're going to impact the whole town by dumping it on the people that live in the village, to where there's no point moving here because it's too expensive. That means just being honest. So,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
I do have one more question. I noticed on, and it may just be because this is my first time looking at the budget from the water, but I noticed on like row 3 and row number, where is it? 10, in the first section, there seems to be the same thing.
For water or wastewater?
This is under water repair and maintenance supplies, and then when I look at the notes, it says including repairing road to LM tank. Just are those duplicate,
Right.
even
So
though the
those-
difference,
so
one was
is
a negative,
one's
one was
repair
a...
and maintenance materials, and one is contract labor for the same job. So.
Oh, I'm sorry,
So labor
I
and
wasn't
then-
looking at the supply versus the labor.
Yeah.
Thank you for pointing that out,
No
I
problem.
appreciate it.
Yep. That's another one of the capital projects where the road to the Lyman tank is bad.
Yeah.
So we're gonna fix it.
Okay, yeah.
Yep.
We did some work to it already, didn't we?
We kind of just
Yeah,
scraped
okay.
it, and it didn't do
But
much.
more to come.
We need to.
So then I asked you if there's any capital, and you said no, but there
Yeah,
there
there's
is
smaller.
some. Yeah,
There's a smattering of smaller ones. There's
Okay.
I don't have a big hunk one in there.
yeah. Okay, but those are good. Those are,
Right.
and I think the access to that well is important.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Any other questions on the? So, I mean, I'm assuming we'll leave this out there, and at our next meeting, we'll be ready to move forward. That'll give others a chance to look at it, ask some questions.
Yep.
Certainly, rather than wait till the next meeting, if you have more questions, it'd be good to email Renee and Eric with your
Yep.
questions, and we could all be copied if it
Right.
seems appropriate.
Yep.
So. All right.
It seems good. I think everything is going well in the department now.
Yeah.
I mean, unfortunately, we have to do the sewer thing, which
Yes.
is not
Yeah.
a choice.
No.
But it seems like people are very happy with the water.
Yeah. I've had.
It's been very dependable of late. So these are all good. That's not wood.
Well, it's the
It used to
closest
be.
thing I have.
But that's a good thing, and it is expensive, but hopefully we have to have water. Have to have more
Yeah.
water than we
Yeah.
have.
Right.
What happened, people forget about what happened with this well out here, it just dried up, and that put us in a spot. So I still think we did the right thing, creating the new water
Yeah.
plant and
Yeah.
what comes with it, but.
Everyone seems to love the new, not screwing up their water heaters and
Yeah.
Right.
best
Yeah, there's-
tasting drinking water in the state.
Yeah.
Except for my place.
Well, public drinking water. You can't provide with a private well. Sometimes those are hard to beat. That's true.
All right. Good. Thanks, Eric.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right.
Can you give me 2 minutes?
Yes. Yes. Okay, we'll take a quick 2-minute break. All right, thanks. So we're back just after a 10-minute break. Next item on the agenda is discuss the FY20 staff pay increases in our budget. We budgeted 3%.
Actually, it's the
You
engagement,
skipped.
it's
You
the
skipped.
audit engagement letter next.
Okay, number 9, sorry. Apologize for that. Approve the FY audit engagement letter with Fothergill,
Fothergill, Segal, and Valley.
Fothergill, Segal, and Valley. Last meeting, they were here, and it was the recommendation that these are the folks we hire again to do our audit. They've done a good job. I think our town folks associated with them are quite happy. And the only reason this is on the agenda again is we forgot to have a copy to sign.
I forgot to put it loaded into
um,
Dropbox for you guys last time.
So unless there's any questions, if we just had a motion to approve this, our auditors,
I'll make the motion to approve it.
Second.
okay?
I just do have a question. Are there any changes at all?
No, and this is just the audit engagement letter, so it doesn't have, this is just something that you would do each year.
Right, okay.
Yeah, so there isn't any other information or anything to,
And I think it just
Change in there.
requires my signature
I believe
and
so,
Renee's.
yeah.
Maybe so.
But you just make a motion to.
Yeah, to approve it. All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, so that passed.
Thank you, John Luke.
All right, next, is the budget. So we approved for our budget a 3% increase, but now it's up to us to decide what happens come July 1st. Did you want to sort of?
For the budget?
Yeah, just, I mean, I assume we'll go with 3%, but.
Right, yeah. So when you guys did the budget process, you did talk about, you agreed to the 3%. And so each time we've done this, we've done just a straight across the board increase for all the staff. That's one way to do it. Another way that actually might be worthwhile, moving forward, is to go into more of use our employee performance evaluations and base each person's increase kind of on their performance evaluation, so that there's it's incentive to, for good work, that you get a little more bump in pay. And if you need, if there still needs some more motivation, then maybe it's not as much of an increase, but it's based on performance rather than just a straight across the board one. We're obviously not set up for that for this year, but I think it's just something to bring up and to consider.
Are you the one who does the performance evaluation?
So I do them with department heads, but then each department head does it on their own with their own.
So that
staff.
puts some more pressure on those performance evaluations, which
Right,
might be a
yeah,
good
but
thing.
it also puts more purpose in the performance evaluations. Right now, there's not a lot of purpose because they're not seeing, doing all this work to do these evaluations, but everyone's getting a straight across the board same increase. So I think to get more buy-in with the performance evaluation process, if we have it linked to the pay as well, that might be beneficial to all.
So do you have a process in mind for figuring out who?
I think we need to look at, I was, talking to Phil, we don't have a lot of consistency with the pay. So Hinesburg in general, we're lower on the pay scale. That's why we try to, try to offset that with other things, but it would be good to take a look at the pay just to make sure we are competitive for retention purposes, and then go from there and set this in place. So I think there's multiple steps to kind of getting this going and moving forward.
So
evaluating the pay.
We did that with the police department a couple of years ago. We looked at them, said they're just a little under. We bumped it just a little bit. And so I think there's two things we're talking about is, besides what's on the agenda. One is perhaps in the future, if we were to vote, let's say 3% budget increase for pay, then we would give the flexibility to Renee and her management team to take that amount of money and, allocate it based on, I guess, performance.
Right.
And also, there's occasionally where you have somebody who's down here that seems, but they're really doing this kind of work, but, somebody's been here for 25 years and has worked up, and this person's only, say, 10 years, and they still have a long, you're able to sort of, it gives you a little ability to make performance have a bit more to it. So I think that's a great idea. And then the other piece would be overtime, just sort of looking at the pay levels of different groups of our workers, whether it's water, wastewater, highway, police, and say, is it seem appropriate for the town of Hinesburg and where we are?
I think there's some that are very competitive, and there's others, so I think we just need to take a look at all of them and just, make sure where we fit, so.
So just to clarify, making the salaries competitive is totally separate from this increase based on performance.
It's separate in that it's a different step, but it's sort of related in that we need to take a look at the existing pay rates right now.
Right.
Yeah.
So when it's based on performance, we would still be thinking of 3% increase, but not everybody would necessarily get that? Is that how that would work? You'd kind of be 0 to 3?
Yeah, or, you'd look at the entire budget and how much you want to have for a salary, for staff increase, and then that amount I'd be looking at as I go doing the performance evaluations and thinking about what increase each person gets.
So it's possible that everybody would be doing a great job and it would be
absolutely.
just the same as it is now.
Absolutely.
So it's possible.
And if that's not the case, would it be if somebody got 0, somebody else would get a 5%? Would it go like that? That might not add to team effort.
Again, you have to really be aware of where their salary's fitting into the mix. So you don't want to get them either so high that we're out of we're above every other town around us.
Right. Yeah.
There's a sort of a happy medium to be in there, and it helps with staff retention and also bringing in people when we're trying to fill positions.
Yeah.
If we're by far the lowest, then and there's other open positions around, which is what we're having a lot. They're not coming to to apply for the position in Hinesburg. They're applying for one of the other towns. And so if we can sort of flip that.
And by looking at an allocation of a percentage of the budget, if people are at different salary levels too. So, a 2% at somebody that's at $50,000 and a 2% at somebody that's at 25, it's a big difference. So I think it's a great idea to try for next year, not this year. And, that we're able to make performance important.
And in the end, you may not see such a big jump in our salary. There may be less overtime needed on things because we are able to bring people in, keep positions, retain people. So hopefully, I think there's some multiple benefits to it.
Good.
And sorry, I want to interrupt you.
No.
And you've gone through do you have a plan as to how to, I've gone through these type of performance, just, it could get a little tricky to make it clear so it's transparent and everybody's got clear goals based on blah.
Right.
You're okay taking that type of on, because that's can be a lot of work.
Yeah, I mean, we've done work on, looking at our performance evaluation, the first, just to getting that updated a little bit. That's going to be a work in progress. So this year, we're starting with a basic one. We'll get feedback from all of the department heads to see what other tweaks need to be made. Each department's going to be a little bit different. But yes, there's going to be an ongoing, there are multiple steps with it. So.
Yeah.
So, did we have a motion on the
No.
percentage? We put in the budget 3%.
Unless there's some reason, some wild expense that we weren't expecting, I see no reason that we would change our mind.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Yep.
I think
No,
we're
I
in
don't
good
have anything
shape.
to
So,
report.
is that a motion?
Yes.
Okay.
Second.
All right, so the motion is, let's go ahead and put the staff pay increases at 3% as we budgeted. Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, so that motion passed.
Do we need to do anything further with moving forward on this idea? next year?
On which one?
Of the idea of the performance-based that we just talked about?
Yeah, I mean, I'll look into.
Is it kind of a done thing that you're gonna run with, or do you need us to be involved in any way?
Do we need to make a motion to support you doing that or something like that?
No, I don't think there's a motion that's needed to be made. I think it's just something to now be starting to look towards for next year, but to be looking at information now would be helpful.
But
I think having the management team aware that, hey, this is something we're encouraging.
Yeah.
And you have a year to sort of
Yeah.
figure out how it works, making sure the new performance appraisal process is working well, so.
That will be interesting to see how that goes, because some of the departments, let's face it, are very small.
Right,
I mean,
absolutely.
3
Yeah.
people, how much are you friends?
Yeah.
And how much does that impact the performance evaluation? And how much oversight is there of that? So, not to say that anything would
Right.
impact the department heads'
Yeah.
opinion,
Yeah.
but they are very small departments. It's not like Essex where you got
Yeah.
40 officers, and they're not
Right.
really as personable
Right.
as they would be here. So,
Uh-huh.
yeah, that's just something to
Right, yeah,
consider.
there's definitely pieces that could be tricky, so it has to
Yeah,
be
right.
done well.
Yep.
So.
All right. Next on the agenda is the V-Trans easement. This is for.
Point of order for you. Do we skip 10?
I don't know, that's.
I mean, if not looking on your draft, but on the
The budget
actual,
status report.
Remember the draft is different than the.
Yes, I've been looking at the draft, so, sorry. Oh, yeah, so.
Did you want to do that next?
No, yeah, we can do that next. So we have in our packet the updated budget status report through almost the whole year.
11 months. yeah.
11 months. And every line is on there. I did get a chance to look at it. The only thing that really stood out was we spent more for salt, no surprise there.
Less for sand, but more.
Yes,
for,
less
more
for sand,
salt.
yeah. So I think, I don't know if you want to comment on it. Generally, I don't think there's any surprises there or any
No.
things, you know.
Health insurance, as I told you, I mean, there were changes, and there were people that came on to health insurance that weren't, so even just a couple changes like that can be a significant difference that we knew. So there really weren't any surprises. In buildings and facilities, they spent more on for the toolcat, a lot of repairs. So that was up.
Which we knew about as it went along.
Right, the highway garage being the new garage, the utilities had stayed the same at this current year. However, where we're tracking right now, I think what I put in for next year, it looks like we may be in really good shape for it being on target for that. So I think overall, we're doing really well, and there'll be some other things that we'll be, doing the next few weeks just to fine tune where we land.
Little over, we're always looking at the cost for lawyer, and we're just a
Right.
little over, but closer than we have been in the past.
Closer than we have been in the past.
So.
Which was an intentional action there.
What's that?
To get closer to that.
Absolutely, yeah, that's been a
Worked
lot
hard
of.
at that one.
Yeah.
So there's no motion needed other than if there's any questions or concerns.
Yeah.
I didn't really see any big surprises.
And this is my first time looking at what we do here. So I noticed it looks like a few of the vehicles, like the police department, all of a sudden had no expectation, and then there's 13,000 of something. Is that just lease payments? Is that
Where are you at?
car director?
Let's
Down at
see.
the bottom.
Yeah, where'd I go here? Sorry, skipping all over.
What page?
Community police start.
It's where it has all the cars. Here we go. It's on page. What page am I on?
10 and 11. Is
Or
it?
the capital down at the bottom.
11.
Page 11.
11 of 23.
Is that what it is? It's capital. It's not expense or.
So.
So, for example. Oh, it evens out better anyway. how
You're
it
probably
comes
under
out.
repair and maintenance if you're on page 11.
Yeah,
So if you
maybe.
see police vehicle repair and maintenance, 8,000. And then under that are listed out each individual vehicle and how much was spent
Okay.
to repair and maintain each of those vehicles.
Yeah, because you can see the corresponding line item numbers is the 440-415168.12, 13, 14, 15.
Yeah, so I see those, yeah.
So what they
Just
do
break it
is
out.
in order to kind of track how much they're spending on each vehicle, so they because they've been doing the leasing, when it makes sense, when it's that point where they're starting to spend a lot to maintain them and the repairs are going up, so they track an individual on each vehicle.
Okay.
Which wasn't
Separately.
being done before.
Right.
So you can see the line for 8,000.
Spent $202.21 there.
So dispatch, I mean, that's just a flat number.
This
now,
year.
right?
It is going to be for this year. Before it's kind of been up and down.
Right. But 21,000, we paid less than half, 45% of. I'm just not sure when it's
Oh,
billed.
when do they bill it? I'm
Right.
not sure.
Yeah, I think there's more to come.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is my understanding.
Sometimes, because this is a snapshot, there are some things that get paid right away,
Right.
the beginning of the year, so you're
Right.
already at 100, and some wait, so the percentages are pretty good. I mean, we should be around 92%, 93%. So that's a pretty good indication, but there are some times when it depends, it's all the timing.
Yeah.
Any other questions? I will say, it feels like we're in good hands. You know, I would trust Renee would come to us if something, you know, looks like it's gonna be a problem or something is skewing out of line. And I'm assuming Missy and her group is looking at,
Jones.
yeah, keeping close tabs on it. Okay?
We know dust control should be down so far.
Yeah, I think so.
Got that going for us.
Yeah. I'm sure Mike will point out what all this rain is doing on other parts of his budget. Okay, so let's see if I can get back. Next is back to the Vermont V-Trans easement. We had a discussion about this the last meeting. This is some easements around Shelburne Falls Road and some culvert work. We had Mike review and his...
Everything was straightforward. He had no concerns.
And we get $800 for this. So
Don't spend it all in one place.
this summer they'll do some of the work, and then next year the majority of it. Is
I
that-
believe next, yeah, so they're doing a lot of the, right now they're doing all the right-of-way stuff, so including all the
they
landowner pieces.
Trim some trees. I noticed they're starting to do a little bit of stuff there.
So, yeah, I'm not sure exactly how much is done this year. I think a lot of it's just, you know, doing it. They'll have this hearing coming up on June 20th, I believe, for any of the properties that they aren't able to get.
Okay.
Then
they take it over.
Then they take it, yeah.
So I'll make
Okay.
a motion to approve the easement for intersection improvements with Vermont AOT for Shelburne Falls Road.
All right.
Second.
All right. And we'll all have to sign this.
Yes, yeah.
And so that's something to do at the end of the meeting.
Yeah.
All those in favor of granting that easement, say aye.
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 Aye. Okay. Next item is just discuss summer meeting schedule. I think we have a conflict for our next meeting, which would normally be
2 weeks from tonight.
2 weeks from tonight. I will be out of town. I'll call in. But Aaron, you have a conflict.
Yeah, I have a conflict.
So I think we have a conflict for the next meeting, and then I think,
And I also anticipate conflicts coming up in the coming months if we stick on Wednesdays as well. So that's why I brought it to Renee's attention right away.
okay. And I think Renee also mentioned, even though we have V-Trans here on Wednesdays, it's not live.
VCAM, yeah.
VCAM.
Yeah, yes.
V-Trans.
V-Trans, VCAM.
Wishful thinking, but thank you.
So I think we just,
So one thing I would propose, although I know you might have a problem with it, is just stick with Mondays. Mondays work. I don't like them particularly. I know you don't like them, but it's conflict-free. I don't know about
Not
you.
for me.
yeah, right.
Summertime.
So in the summer, we used to do Thursdays,
Right.
you know, for a period until the first
So
of
if we
September.
did Thursdays in 2 weeks, I'm not here. So and because I already had Wednesday on there,
Yeah.
Thursday filled up. This click. So rock in a hard place.
So, well, it sounds like what we need immediately is an alternate date for our next meeting
Yeah.
for this month. We definitely need it. We've got a couple things that
Yeah.
we've already
Oh, for sure.
promised we'd work on.
For sure.
And so,
So
And is that the 12th?
it's the week of the 17th through the 21st.
Oh, okay.
As it stands right now, we haven't changed it. It's on the 19th as it stands right now.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Yeah.
Wednesday the 19th.
Still in June, okay.
So for that particular week, I would propose Monday or Tuesday or Friday.
I can't do it that Monday. 17th.
So now we're down to Tuesday and Friday. If we go next.
Tuesday is the DRB.
Right, but we could have a meeting in another room, right? Yes, no?
We wouldn't have VCAM. I don't know that we'd be able to have VCAM do it because they'd already be here
Yep.
for the DRB.
So are we looking at Friday? Which is odd.
And I don't know if,
Or do we move it out 1 week to the 26th? That Wednesday?
Or
That-
Thursday, which day?
we can't do another, we only can do the first and third Wednesdays because
Oh.
planning commission are second and fourth.
Yeah. 27th, I'm not available the following Thursday either. But I mean, you'll be back. I mean, if I'm not here, I'm not here.
I'm just trying to pull up my schedule here.
I'm more
So-
I
concerned.
mean, if we
Thursday
had the
the
meeting and you weren't here, we'd still have a quorum of 4. Somebody else would need to chair. I couldn't chair from
Oh, I'm talking about, are you talking about next?
just the next
just
meeting.
on
I
the
think that
19th,
that's
yeah.
the one we need to figure out first.
Yeah. Which is why I propose either doing it on Tuesday the 18th, or did you say you weren't available Tuesday the 18th, or you are?
It's not available Monday.
Yeah, it's
Monday.
Monday.
So either Tuesday the 18th or push it out a week to the 26th on a Wednesday. Sticking with that one. Oh, no, you said
Tuesday.
Wednesday we couldn't.
Wednesday and Tuesday's a
And Tuesdays we
DRB.
can't. So then we go back to the idea of, then we have it on a Monday, but then I assume you couldn't make it either on a Monday.
It's tough. Well,
So- So it'd be Jeff and I with Phil on the phone, so I don't know if that's a good
I
idea.
mean,
Not
if we
ideal.
need to squeeze in a meeting, why can't we just do it on a Tuesday? If you know, VCAM, I don't think it's a necessity. It's very nice to have, but I mean, we're all busy people.
We've done
We
it
try to
before.
squeeze a lot of things in,
Yeah.
and we warn the meetings. If people really have something they want to see, they can attend.
Yeah.
I mean,
Is there anything in particular on that meeting that
It will
That you
be,
the Black Rock?
it'll be the water
budget?
wastewater budget
Yeah.
and, let's see, there's some things,
Yeah,
Texas
there's
Hill
those 3 things that you
Road.
put in your summary.
Yeah. Let's see what else I.
And bless you, so we would meet upstairs?
I guess that would be our, yeah, because there'll be DRB here, so.
Yeah.
Public house is out of the question.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I'm the one running the meeting if it's me and not you, right? So, yeah.
So, I mean, I guess it would be upstairs. Yeah.
Main hall, yeah.
Yeah.
Like good old times.
So then I hear Aaron saying he'd be willing to help set it up,
Sure.
so.
All right.
Tuesday the 18th.
This is just a one-time on Tuesday?
Just the one
Yeah,
time.
just a one
Because I
time.
you know what?
just signed up for classes on Tuesday nights.
I know, I mean, this isn't it crazy? Just how packed everybody's life is.
Yeah.
You have a conflict?
well, it's a very busy day for me, but I could probably be here by 7.
President coming to town?
I have something scheduled at the golf course that day.
Yeah.
It doesn't start till noon.
It's gonna rain
It
that.
should be
It's
all
gonna
right.
rain that day, so like, don't even worry about
So,
it.
and the reason Thursday wasn't good, other than a conflict for this room, was there another reason that Thursday wasn't good?
won't be available
Oh,
Thursday
okay.
the 20th.
So it sounds like Tuesday. I'm hearing Tuesday.
Tuesday, the 18th, upstairs.
Is everybody okay with?
Seems to be the best option.
Yeah,
Tuesday the 18th.
as a one-time change. But then now we've gotten through that, let's, if Phil so wants to entertain it, continue the conversation
Sure.
to forward.
The problem is Wednesdays is a conflict for you.
Well, not every Wednesday, but
Right.
there are some that I won't be around. Now, again, not the end of the world if I'm not here, I guess. As
So
long
we
as
have
enough.
2, right now, we have 2 in July
July.
and 2 in August.
And those ones.
And the
in-
one in July on the 3rd, I'm assuming we're gonna shift that one.
Yeah, I would think so.
So
that's
let's-
one conflict.
Let's sort of say the one on the 3rd, let's just shift to the 10th.
10th.
I won't be
Again,
here the
that's
10th.
the planning commission, so we'd have to be in a different space
Okay.
than this, though.
And I
What
won't be
about
here the 10th.
making that on the 2nd? On the Tuesday.
That's a DRB.
It's not ideal for me
I have
either.
conflicts on Tuesday.
So what about going forward, shifting to Thursday? Does that work for?
It would work better for
Works
the,
for me.
Oh, but it doesn't
I like
work.
Thursdays, but
Well, I mean, that's what we've done in the past.
So we would end up being, it's only 4 Thursdays. It'd be the 11th, it'd be the 18th,
would it be, oh yeah, the 11 and 18.
and then it would be the 1st and the 15th.
So of those 3, I have 1 conflict.
Okay,
So that's not bad.
no.
Come on.
It's better than keeping it on Wednesday. We're at my world.
So it would be the July 10th?
Yep.
Is that what you said?
that's a Wednesday.
No, it'd be
No,
the
the
11th.
So I can't make July 11th.
Okay.
Can the other 4 of us make July 11th?
I can.
I have another commitment, but I think I can change it.
Okay. And can you make July 11th as a call-in, or just, you won't?
To July 11th. July 11th I can't. I also have a conflict on the 25th. Was that the other day?
That would be the 18th.
18th.
Do you want him back to back, or do you want the 11th and 25th? Oh, well, you're saying.
Well,
you're
so the
not
11th I
available.
can't do
Okay.
regardless. I could do the 18th just fine.
All right. So the 18th,
So 11 and 18.
and then August 1st.
How is everybody else on the 18th?
I won't be here, but
Joy.
that doesn't, Joy can
Yeah.
be here.
Marilee?
We're talking about the 18th or the 11th?
18th now, but both.
So the 11th, I have a conflict, but I might be able to change it.
Right.
And the 18th, I think is okay,
How about you?
according to my calendar.
At this point, I don't. My
There-
stuff isn't scheduled
everything's a
out.
conflict, yeah.
Everything's a conflict.
Everything's a conflict. All right.
All right, so then we're talking the 1st.
The 1st, likely I
Of
will not be
August.
here.
Okay, anybody else?
First I should be okay.
All right, Marilee?
The 1st of August looks pretty clear.
And then the 15th of August.
Works okay.
Okay? So, we decided, what did we decide for the next meeting? I forget already.
Going back to June, we decided it
Tuesday
to
the
be
18th.
Tuesday, the 18th.
Okay?
In the main hall.
Tuesday, the 18th, main hall.
Then,
Phil will call in.
I will call in.
Okay.
Then on,
And everybody will be here for that.
And I'll be here.
Hmm?
Yep. Marilee, you'll be here on the 18th of June, correct?
Yeah.
Yep.
okay, that
Okay.
was good, yeah, okay. And then we're looking at the 11th
And
of
18th.
July and the 18th, 2 weeks in a row, then we'll
Yeah.
have a break, then the 1st
Yep.
and the 15th.
1st
Alright.
and the 15th.
Okay, and then for September, we'll be back on wherever it is, Mondays?
Well, the first one would
interesting.
be.
Oh, no, would be Wednesdays?
No.
I thought our first meeting of September was
Yeah,
gonna
so,
be.
so interestingly
Thursday.
enough, okay, so we'd have 2 weeks from the 15th of August is still August, the 29th.
Yeah, so we skipped that.
We could, or, depending on what's going on, we could skip that. But then gets us to Monday, the 2nd of September, which is Labor Day.
Okay,
So
so
we
we
would
wouldn't do
skip
that,
that,
yeah.
right? So we might do the 29th in lieu of the 2nd, and then our next meeting would be September 19th, or sorry, September 16th, on Monday.
Well, that's assuming we're moving back to Mondays.
It's
So we don't
up
have to
you.
make a decision
Yeah.
now. I thought, I don't
Yeah.
mind Mondays, but I thought people were like, they prefer another day.
I
And
think it's
that-
good for Renee.
that made us shoot for Wednesdays. And it's the first and the third Wednesday
Right.
because it's a conflict with other town business.
Mhm.
So that means we would do Wednesday, the 4th,
4th and 18th.
and the 18th. And then we'd be on Wednesdays for the winter. Okay?
So September 4th and September 18th. Is that what you're saying?
September 4th.
Okay.
Seems
All
fine to me.
right, we have our next meeting chosen, we
Yep.
have the proposed rest of the summer,
Yep.
and then we're looking at in September, moving back to Wednesdays.
Is our new day?
Okay, can we go over the dates again?
How
for
about
June,
if we,
July, and
if we
August?
publish it, can we
Yep.
put it in an email?
Yep.
We'll send it out to everybody.
That would be great.
Is that all right?
Yep.
Okay.
But you got them, correct? I mean, for the note, for the minutes, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
for the minutes I've got
Yeah,
it,
you're
yep.
good.
All right.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, it seems like it's getting just everybody that we can
The
get.
18th might, but with everybody here, I won't, there's a possibility I will not be able to make that one.
Which
That's
one?
the July?
Like our next meeting.
Oh, our next one.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah.
So it'll be Jeff,
Well-
Marilee, myself, and you on the phone.
Yeah, and in those cases, if you're able, I think in the past, you missed one, and we talked a little bit about what was
Oh,
coming
sure.
up, yeah.
Yeah.
And so, if there's a critical vote, or it looks like a tight vote, and we can push it off, that's a good thing to do.
Right.
And
Or
these are
even just call in for the vote.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just have
If
a big
need be.
event that starts
Yeah.
kind of late in the day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It might be tough to squeeze here.
And these are all 7 o'clock start times, I assume, unless
Yeah.
we have.
Unless otherwise
Unless we,
special.
yes, right.
6:30 for you.
We're gonna make them different each time, just to keep you guessing.
Keep me on my
The one on the
toes.
18th starts at 6:24.
Thank you.
We used to be consistent, and then you joined, and now we've been all over the place.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, next on the agenda is Town Administrator Report.
Ah, all right, let me just get back to me.
Anything going on in town, Renee?
I don't think so. Like I said, normally just sitting around waiting for something to happen.
There you go.
Renee did have some vacation time, but it was right in the middle of the police chief process, so you had not a heck of a lot of time, even though
Yeah.
you were at
Usually we'll
home.
go home for lunch.
Yeah, something like that. So yes, we've already talked about, we named our next police chief, Anthony Cambridge, and
Will we have some type of thing for him? I mean, I'm
Yes.
not sure what.
yeah, I mean, I think we'll do a swearing in.
Yeah.
And then we can do some sort of a welcome type of event for the community at some point, so.
And you know what would be interesting, depending on when we do, we probably actually, I'm thinking this out loud, we're going to do this after the June 14th probably, or before June 14th,
After, which part?
the swearing in part, the little ceremony.
I'll have to think about that and see where I can.
Because wouldn't it be cool to, although the timing may not work out here, is to incorporate the community in some fashion or another into this, other than just to invite, but actually maybe invite or have it take place at the school or something like that. So like there was, like sort of a civics in action kind of. I don't know. I don't remember where I'm going with this exactly,
Right.
but somehow include the third grade or something. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll
Just
have
thinking off the
to
top of my head.
think
Kind of
about and see if we
strange
can.
thought, Aaron.
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of along the same line. Maybe the 4th of July.
Yeah,
Just take a
that's not a bad idea.
short piece of time and
Actually have the official swearing in then.
Yeah.
That's not a bad idea too.
I don't know where.
The fireworks,
Yeah, between.
Anytime. I mean, it's
Yeah, it could be right
it's
at,
tough to pick
yeah.
the right time, but
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
I like that idea. I don't know, does he have to be sworn in that day? I mean, he's not gonna be a bad
it would be.
guy.
It might not be official. but
Yeah,
Yeah.
right,
Just kind
right.
of
No,
a-
that sounds,
Right.
like
That's
a
a good
reasonable
idea.
thing,
Yeah.
yeah.
I like
Okay.
that.
So,
All
So when
right.
you're gonna have the most
Explore
people.
that.
Yes.
Sure.
Sure.
Yeah.
Might have the balloons already.
so Renee will help explore that. Anybody that has any ideas, just share them with her.
All right.
Okay. But I
Well,
think
Tom's
that's
your idea guy.
Yeah.
Village North sidewalk continues to be delayed due to weather, like everything else. They have gotten, I think, the last of the poles up and set and everything, so we're just hoping that the weather's gonna dry up, the ground's gonna dry up a little bit and they can get out
On the
there.
plus side, the snow's melted.
There we go, yes.
The contractor's
Glad
ready.
to report that at least.
The contractor's ready to move, it's just,
Yes,
good,
yeah,
okay?
So I noticed one pole they put in that wasn't there before, just right next to Kinney Drugs by the Patrick Brook. Is that part of what's going on? And there's line crossing there? I mean, you probably don't know, but I just kind of noticed that.
That's a cross on the other side of 160?
Yeah.
I think it is where it crosses.
But it hasn't crossed there before because that's all underground utilities because it's, new construction. It just seemed
I
an
saw the
odd,
pole,
like
I
I
just
was
assumed
kind
it
of
was.
puzzled why that pole was there.
One thing that may come back to you related to this is the easement that we had with Jolly.
Yes.
They've requested, they feel like the easement is too wide that
Yeah.
they're looking at, and so they're willing to keep it for construction purposes, but they'd like to come back to us afterwards and see if we can reduce the easement a little bit. So I'm kind of negotiating that with them a little bit, just to we need to ensure that we have enough for maintaining the sidewalk with the toolcat and snow removal and those pieces, so.
They're
I'm
not
doing-
asking for something that would impact that.
Well, we don't
or
know, so
impede.
No,
You
yeah,
just
I
don't
mean,
know.
they're
Okay.
really wanting to decrease it a fair amount, so I just want to make sure. So I'm working with them. They're
Details
very,
to come.
Yeah, no,
And
they've been
you'll-
very.
Is there somebody you're working with within the town that can help, make that decision? Whether
Well-
it's somebody that runs the equipment or?
Yeah, I mean, I'm checking into that, but I'm also working with our engineers just to make
Okay.
sure that there's, that we have the sufficient space. The wastewater upgrade planning committee, we met last week. Aldrich and Elliott, they're laying out the timelines for each alternative, and they're looking for additional feedback. But during the meeting, it was discussed that the wick drains might be the best option, but they would likely require extending the deadlines.
Another 8 months really to do wick trains.
Right. So they're still having some back and forth with the state.
Yeah, so I think the committee will make a final decision on the best approach. And there was some discussion via email within the committee about, geez, if we choose the wick drain, that's gonna cause the project, could cause the project to be longer, and maybe the state will be upset about the extra length. And I weighed in and said, let's make the decision, that's the right decision, and if it means it's an extra 6 months, the state's we're gonna fight that, and, we don't wanna come up with something that's short-term just to make the permit, time limits versus the right choice. And the state knows now, we've had to do this, geo study, the geotechnical work, and now we found that it's a real challenge, so they're aware of all this, so.
So we have a hard luck case to also
Yeah,
pursue.
yeah, I think so. So, I think the committee will get together again and make a decision on where to go.
Yeah.
And along with that will be a timeline and a bond, a timeline for when the bond could be.
Right. Mike mentioned to me that he had a request from a resident on, off of Silver Street to put up a horse sign or a horse and buggy sign because they live on Silver Street and would like to get to Lewis Creek Road on their horse, and so they were hoping that some signage
Does a
would
lack of a sign
kind of
prevent
warn
them to
people.
do that?
What's that?
The lack of a sign doesn't prevent them from
It
doing
doesn't
that.
prevent them, they were just, just to make traffic aware that,
Yeah, and is
right.
he-
And that was his concern, is there's just not a lot of shoulder there, and so.
Right, but whether we put up a sign or not, they're still doing it, correct? So let's put up a sign and,
I don't know,
I mean, what's the
Yeah,
logic here
what's our
missing?
rules with the town as
I
far as
think-
signs like that?
I think that, one thing, like they used to do like the children at play signs, and now they don't allow those because it's sort of having the town say, yes, they're
Children can play here.
children, yeah, or something,
Right.
I guess
So you
there's
put
been
up a
some
sign,
issues.
buggy crossing, and now buggies can cross, and the town has some liability there
Yeah.
if there's a problem.
Is that true, or are we just making this up on the spot?
No, I mean, I think that the state is no longer allowing those types of signs, I think because of that. But the horse and buggy one is a little different.
Yep.
But I think Mike's looking at it as, it's just not, it's this, not the best road as far as safety wise.
Well, agreed,
there's-
but-
Traffic's going fast and there's not a lot of shoulder
There's
and,
not a lot of sight.
and the sight distance
Line of
is not
sight.
good there.
No.
Yeah,
So,
but that gets back to my point, though. Like, if they're doing it, whether we put up a sign or not, let's put up a sign and
Right,
warn
just-
about it.
Right.
No?
Might make it a little safer.
Maybe.
so he was just looking for some feedback from you guys.
I mean, I think it would be good to come up with a proposal. I assume the town would pay for the sign, or are these folks
No, they would
saying-
pay for the sign, the town would put them
Yeah,
up.
maybe we should come up with a proposal and
Where
maybe
are they
ask.
traveling from and to, I guess is the question.
So,
How long are they on the road?
they're located north of Isham Road and south of Lewis Creek Road.
And they're just going from their location to Lewis Creek Road?
North of Isham and south of Lewis Creek.
Trying to think where that's,
Doesn't make
Yeah, that
sense.
that doesn't make sense, does it?
It's, well, I mean, it's...
Maybe it's the reverse.
Well, maybe it's the
I mean,
reverse.
I know where it is.
I know where
It
those
does
big
make
horses
sense.
are.
That's what we're talking about.
Okay,
So it's almost across the street. Really.
Because they have horses there in Rod and Jean's old barn,
Yeah.
you know, and they come down to Silver
Right.
Street.
huh,
Or not Silver Street, to
Lewis Creek.
Lewis Creek.
It's just that, boy, I'd be hesitant to. Cars travel fast. I mean, they're not Hinesburg people, but
Right.
that's a main thoroughfare, and I would not want to be on there with a horse and buggy.
But they are, that's my point.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
And
So they're
there's
already
nothing
doing it.
stopping them.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's my
got it,
point.
got it.
I mean, as I understand it, I mean, unless I'm missing something, is
Yeah,
that...
I
I
don't
don't know,
know.
I mean, I only know what it says there.
Uh-huh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I think it'd be, if they're willing to pay for it, it would be good to at least come up with, here's a proposal. And then we can
Put one
decide.
each.
And then let Mike come here and weigh in on what
And
he
if
thinks.
if it works, heck, we'll put one entrance to the village and we'll get that problem solved too.
All right. And we talked a little bit about this earlier, the AED presentation. We're having the fire extinguisher training tomorrow. Looks like the weather's gonna cooperate, so we can be right outside the clerk's office in that area. And then we'll also do the AED training at the same time, so.
Those, if you haven't been trained in those devices, they're amazing because they tell you exactly what to do.
Yeah,
You don't have
they're
to-
verbal, aren't they?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep.
So. So that's it. That's all I have right
All
now.
right. Any questions for Renee?
I just wanted to publicly thank you, because I did privately, for leading the team to find a new police chief. It was a huge undertaking, this tremendous amount of process. On more than one occasion, it was brought to my attention that your efforts sort of led the field, as in the state of Vermont, in how thorough we were with this process. Some would argue too thorough, but that's fine. I'd rather have them argue that than the other way around. And I know firsthand the amount of hours you put into this and the amount of deep concern you had for making sure you did it right. And I think you did. So I told you privately, but I'm also saying publicly thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
We've all recognized that,
Thank
yeah.
you.
It was really a good committee to work on. It was very satisfying. It was very smooth and really no ripples. And I think a lot of that is because of the work that you did.
It was a great group of people and that were very committed to the process and put a lot of thought and consideration into it, so.
Yeah.
All right.
Great. Select board forum?
Well, I just had mine, sorry.
Yeah, okay.
I have one. So, if you're not aware, I think we're aware, but there's going to be a pop-up park event on Lot 1. That's Maggie Gordon on the Planning Commission sort of put it together, and there's a bunch of people that are interested in that, a lot of folks in Creekside and other parts of town that are part of, it's like an ad hoc, it's not a formal committee from us, but it's a group of folks that came together, and they're getting some sponsorship and some money from people, and they're going to go out on Lot 1 on August 3rd from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. And the rain date is August 10th at the same time. And basically, what's that?
What day of the week?
That's a good point. When is August 3rd?
August 3rd.
Probably a weekend.
Friday.
Saturday.
Saturday.
Yeah. So the concept here is just some ideas to get feedback on what could be in that park. So, for example, they're going to come and put up a temporary play structure, maybe put out a seating area, maybe some statues or things like that, all temporary, but have you go have the town experience it, try it out. How does it work? What doesn't? And you can go through and try all this stuff out.
Sounds interesting.
So that's going to happen. It's really exciting. So it'll be fun to see. And I know there's development going on over there possibly that might be able to help. But it's just to get people thinking. And what can we do? Is it's just sort of a field and has been, so it's just a proactive way to get people involved and thinking about it. And I thought it was a really great idea that
How can
Maggie
we
put together.
capture the feelings, concerns, thoughts, opinions of the day of all the folks that...
I'll find out from Maggie and
sounds great.
Alex. I started on the committee, but then with everything going on, I kind of fell out of it. But I'm still in touch with them, and I just wanted to raise it. I can find out how they're going to get feedback, but that is the goal: is just to let people experience
part of it is just go.
This is what it could be, or these are some
These are
things
just
it could
ideas
be.
of what it could be. And
I think that's a great
things
way
that
to
we can use.
get some enthusiasm.
Yeah. It'll be a fun community day to go out to the park and try it out and get some ideas.
August 3rd.
August 3rd from 4 to 7 p.m.
4 to 7.
And then rain date's the 10th.
Beautiful. Anything else for Select Board Forum?
Oh, the Hinesburg Business Professional Association is having their golf tournament this weekend. Actually, it looks like they're actually going to see the sunshine.
Yes.
So get a team. That's all the fireworks are provided
through
through donations and hard work. So it's a good event to play in. Like I said, it's going to be about 80 degrees. They kick it off at 8 o'clock. So
Is that going to be held at Killington this year?
Still snow down there. We're going to have it in my
That's
place.
right.
Okay, well, you're going to host this
That's
year.
great.
Okay, good.
I saw the signs, and it's
Yeah.
getting some good publicity.
Yep.
Great. Anything else? So I have one item, just to acknowledge, it's our town administrator's birthday today.
Oh, yay, happy birthday.
So
There's
I
your
even
headline
thought
for the
I could
citizens.
sing, which I think I will sing.
Wow.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to
Raise your
you.
mic.
Happy birthday, dear Renee. Happy birthday to you. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
And she's here working.
Yes.
And she brought the cupcakes.
And yes, if you and
Well, we asked her to.
Actually, Jen made them.
Oh, did she? Good.
Thank you, Jen.
Good, good. Of course she did.
Um, Next on the agenda is just
Well, should she
review.
give a speech on her wisdom of her
30
many-
years of wisdom?
Her 30 years of
Yes.
wisdom. Like I said, I didn't have you
I
for a day
didn't
or
bring that
29.
up. Yeah.
I woke up far more mature than I was yesterday.
There you go. Happy birthday.
So next is the minutes from 5:15. We have it in our packet.
So I'll make a motion to approve those minutes.
I see one error. I'll second it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I saw one too.
Oh,
I didn't realize there's 81 days in January.
That's the one I saw.
I didn't see that one.
When Dan's term.
January was a very long month.
Oh,
you got that
Don't you
part where
remember?
It's still going on.
That's right, it never ended.
Somebody said
You'll
it's
see it when you put it in
January.
January.
Right now. So where was that?
Val's got it.
When we appointed Dan Meyer to the
Okay.
planning commission.
Yep.
His term expiration date.
All right. Are there any other corrections? All right. Hearing none. All those in favor of approving the minutes with that correction, say aye.
Aye.
Jeff?
I'm like a partial eye because I was only here for the first part of it.
Okay.
So a very quiet little eye.
Yeah.
You can
Partial
abstain, I
aye,
guess.
and I'll say aye,
Yeah.
so I think we've approved that. Next, approve the warrants.
I'll make a motion to approve the warrants to include payroll as submitted by the clerk sitting here
Yeah, they're behind me.
last week.
All right, any discussion? I will say, I think it was either this time or 2 times before, I saw income from the log sale.
Oh, yeah, I did.
Yeah.
I saw the same.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, so all those in favor of approving the warrants and payroll, say aye.
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 Thank you for the sweets, Missy.
And there is no executive session necessary, so unless it's...
Second.
All right, all those in favor, say
Aye.
aye. Aye.
Yeah, that's
To note, it's 9:16.
You were supposed to go to 10:05.
Yeah.